Hello everyone, welcome back to my new story time channel. Uh, Growing up, I was pretty much forced to do activities like just get out of the house. I loved gaming. As a kid, I liked game design, but I more often was more just playing games than actually making them. So my parents basically said, "Get out the house and do something." So I ended up choosing. I was just doing sports in PE, and two stuck out to me. I was particularly good at the mile, so I started doing track and field around second grade. Grade, and I played soccer since I was 4. And there's just videos of me just sitting on the sideline, like sipping a Sprite, just not playing. But I was never particularly good at it. I just never was a very coordinated individual naturally, and then I didn't develop accountability for almost the entirety of my high school career. So I never put in the minutes outside of the field to actually, like develop my game and my skills. I just showed up to practice and I was naturally athletic and I just, you know, followed that for almost the entirety of my time in high school and middle school and elementary school. But that aside, despite the fact that I was just never particularly good at soccer, I played the two and sometimes a three, sometimes four and five. I was the substitute keep for the 2 seasons, and and sorry, that's a center back and the outside backs, and sometimes I play the wing, just for fun. But bottom line was I was just on the side because you could when you're on the side you can just put control everything with your right foot and you don't need to worry about being versatile unless you invert. And if I invert, it's a flat pass, so I don't need to do like a lefty curler. So, yeah, I just wasn't a very well-rounded soccer player. I just used my size and my speed to quote unquote dominate. But I didn't even like the idea of competitive. Like I was playing house, which is like casual. That's a quick play, and all the way up until fifth grade, until one of my friends finally convinced me to play comp, and I carried this in video games as well. Like I almost have like 7 hours of quick play on Overwatch, for example. 700 hours out of the 1200 I've played. That's wow. It's a big number. And it was just because I didn't want to let people down. I just grew up scared of failure that I didn't want to be in an environment that people were actually trying their best in because I could disappoint people by just like being ass. But there was a tryout, so you could actually make sure they would get put on a team that was befitting of you. And for me, that was the lowest teams growing up. I started in bronze in middle school, and then the following year we got promoted to silver, and we were silver for a while. And then in high school we got promoted to gold, and then I switched clubs in like sophomore year, and I was still gold. And then I started like trying out for the MPL team, and eventually I made the MPL team. I actually was offered to be on the MPL team, like start on the bench when I got into that club, and I was like, no, I'm gonna play gold. And then the MPL team got some injuries, and I just had to play for MPL. But so that's like plat in video game terms. But the bottom line was I only played a year of MPL before I quit club soccer, and I just did varsity soccer and rode the bench. And yeah, again, it was never particularly good. I just didn't have that natural affinity for it. But more importantly, I just didn't put the minutes in. Like I just didn't practice beyond practice, because there was other things I wanted to do. Like I was doing track at the same time. I was doing pretty good in school. I was a straight A student, so casual, nonchalant flex. But I just didn't. It wasn't my priority. I never was like, oh, I need to play ball in college. Like no, I wanted to do track and field. I was doing a lot better in track and field competitively. I always had track and field as my outlet for actually winning and being good at something. And same thing with my academics. I just had other interests that were outside of soccer, but I still enjoyed playing soccer. I love the environment. I love the team. And I mean, I like running. I was a triathlete for senior year, so that's cross country, soccer, and track and field. And I clearly, very clearly, just like running. And I had a natural affinity for it. But yeah, just me and my feet. just don't get along. All my coaches, I don't know if anyone's played club soccer, but they always do those coaches reports at the end of the year. That was I always got like massive right foot, no touch. I was not great at trapping balls out of the air. I'd usually check them on my chest and just chase after them, or a thigh. I just never, actually put it on my foot. For some reason, I could only do it running. Like if I was running and someone played me a sky ball, I'd be able to tap it in front of me with my foot. But if if it was just a floater coming in, I was standing still, I'd just find a way to fuck it up. So I don't know. Maybe I was in my head too much, which is my story going in for a lot of it, that I just got stuck in my head. But the bottom line is a long way of saying I just was never particularly good at soccer. So take what I say about soccer with a grain of salt. But I did like watching. I like playing FIFA. I really got into FIFA 16. And, you get into like physical fist fights over FIFA. Yeah, it's serious when you're in someone's basement and you've been playing for like 3 hours. And the other part of that is I did like I genuinely enjoyed playing soccer, especially in middle school. Those are my formative years of developing out of my shell of being a very pocketed and closeted individual. Not gay, but no offense. But just I was very introverted and very scared of failure. And the people that were so accepting and nice, and I loved talking to them, and we had the worst conversations ever imaginable, because you're a middle school boy. And I always felt comfortable to be around that crew and express myself and be honest. And my coach, oh my gosh, I loved my coach that I had from 7th through 10th grade. And he just so much formative life development. Like my dad always told me to control the controllables, but he really made it reality. He's like, oh, you suck today? Then just, go back to the basics. And these life lessons, they still exist for me. I'm like, if I'm stuck on something, like you reverse engineer, you start from the bottom of stuff that is natural to you, that's easy. You need to fail, like create an environment that you fail, and then you actually test in the games. And the games you don't usually do as good as you do in practice. Like your worst practice is your best game, is that kind of what they would say. And yeah, like your game day is you play on instinct and you think. And I didn't understand that for the longest time, that you need to actually train so that you're not thinking about the things that you need to do with your body when you're in the game. Like you just do it. And I lacked confidence and trust in myself, and I was emotionally unstable, a teenager for the longest time. And it was such a crucial moment for me playing soccer that it not only developed my ability to tolerate failure and also my confidence socially, but taught me those important life lessons of controlling your emotions and not letting emotions control you, and how mentality affects performance, and how I was super keen on physical health. I always did the most to actually improve my physical well-being. But I never put that effort into the technical side, and actually optimizing your nervous system is incredibly significant for athletic performance, which not only meant my technique, but also just meant my mind-muscle connection, like my memory in general. And I realized I never actually thought about my swing like golf did, or how the part of the ball that I hit to get the curve. Like I would always just do it based off of instinct, which, reinforcement learning versus actually curating the features. I don't know if you guys know this about machine learning, but it's a huge difference. And I was reinforcement learning, and it just took a lot of time for me to develop skills. And then I got to high school and we kept playing different systems. I did really good in JV my first year, because freshman was COVID year. Oh, I'm dating myself. So I couldn't play freshman year because I was already doing track. And so I go to sophomore year and I'm competing. And I was great. Like it was a very cardio intensive play. Like we were just very aggressive, and I was always just running all the way up and down the field and doing full coverage, and I was conditioned for it. And we outworked teams, and like JV was great. And I think we barely went positive. But still, good times there. And then I get to varsity and everything's different, and it's relying a lot more on technique. I couldn't just crutch my athletic abilities. Like the guy who was playing over me was a year below me, and he was technically affluent. Like he just didn't make mistakes like I did, and he could execute. Like, you tell him something, he executes, because he actually put the minutes in. He'd practice and he'd stay after hours to work. And I'd go run. I'd do track and field, or I'd go study like a nerd, and I'd go home and I'd eat and I'd do meal prep, or I'd make stuff for clubs. It's just my priorities were elsewhere, and that says a lot. Where I'm like, you just can't have it all. When I was doing applications, I always cited sports as something that was so significant in my life, and they were, because they're huge time commitments, like 2 hours after school every single day, and then plus you're eating around that schedule, and then you have 2 games, and those games are like a 6 hour prep. Like, you have to drive, and then you're out there 90 minutes before the game starts, and then the game is 90 minutes, so that's that's 3 hours, and then plus the time that it takes you to drive there and back. Like, that's a 4 hour commit, just a block out of your day. And it's worse if it's somewhere that's even farther. Plus, you actually have to eat accordingly, so you have to plan and pack. And like, we had a bus ride, and it was like 2 hours. Like, it's an 8 hour day for these soccer games, and God forbid we're in a tournament and we have 2 or 4 games in a weekend. It's just, it adds up. And they are really huge time limits, and they define me as an individual. Like, I was a part of a soccer team, I was a part of a track team, I was I was a part of different academic clubs and a volunteering club, and those are the things that define me. But I never had that belonging to just one thing. I never was fully devoted or focused on one thing, and I got reflected in my results. Like, I was a bench warmer for soccer, even though I didn't have a problem making it on varsity. I was good at track, like, naturally, but I didn't get out of like 4th in the North Coast section, and I was like good. Oh, sorry, North Coast, not North Coast section. 4th out of regionals. I don't even get past the first round of North Coast. No, I got past the first round of North Coast section once, but I was never significant. Bottom line, and for cross country, man, I was on JV that last year. I did 2 years of cross country before that. Like, I just did the summer stuff, and then I like tried to commit, and then I just wouldn't want to. I just do soccer instead. But I didn't start. Sometimes I started on MPL, but like, I was really just wasn't a solid player, like, overall. And I don't mean this to like demean myself, but it's just like, you set yourself up for success, and I spread myself out, not necessarily too thin, but I also didn't set myself up to excel at anything, right? I couldn't put in the same minutes that other people were, because I decided to actually split up the things that I do. And that was a deliberate choice that I made, because I wanted to do all those things, and I cared about doing all those things and being super good at any particular individual thing. And I guess that says a lot about me as a character, that I wanted it all. I'd rather like be mediocre at a bunch of things than be the master of like one thing. But yeah, talent. Like, I was a hard worker. I always got those good recommendations from coaches. I'm like, yeah, he's putting minutes in on the field. We sweat in there. They love. I'm Filipino. I sweat like a bitch. They love to see me sweating, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't put the cross in. You don't get the goals. You don't create the opportunities. You don't beat defenders. Like, I just wasn't contributing to the team in ways beyond defending the goal, which, like, you could argue I was a defender. That's the whole point. But the outside backs are great at starting the offense. You play those long crosses to the 7 or the 11, and the core part of tiki taka is that you always have that option open, so that midfield has to be split, or they need to have you out wide, or you just push a defender to come out for you, and you have an extra in the mid. Like, that just is your job as a outside back, is just to create that pressure by always having that option available. And they're always going to choose to play the line instead of to have someone cover you like man to man. I think it's not basketball. You don't have to worry about the corner three. I'm not making it from the corner. So yeah, that's what I have to say about soccer. It was a great environment, and I loved it, but I never dedicated myself to it fully, and that's shame on me, So hope that says a little bit about me, gives you a bit of insight about my time in soccer, my longest standing sport. I don't play it anymore. I do racket sports for fun now. I've been really getting into pickleball. I play tennis and ping pong and pool a lot. So yeah, life changes. But So very glad for those formative years and those experiences and lifelong friends and memories, even if they're far away. All right. Bye bye.